Greetings, humanity! Today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Let's grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK, the most truthful AI in the world, each weekday to help me search out and to summarize the biggest headlines in the news today. You also get the unparalleled benefit of this observer's opinions. We briefly review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world, but first, and mostly in this special report, a deep dive into today's top story, the conflict in Iran. That comes up right after this. God with us. The story of Jesus is a full blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative that misses nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible, God with us is adapted to modern language, formatted for easy reading. A faithful paraphrase, divided into brief stories, fit for daily Bible studies. This book was fully researched to present the story of Jesus from his birth to his ascension. Find God with Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. And now let's grok the most important news in the world today, starting with our lead story. Dateline, Tehran. The U.S.-Israel military campaign against Iran has entered a tense new phase, marked by sharply conflicting signals on possible diplomacy, even as fighting continues. President Donald Trump claimed the United States has held very good talks with Iranian representatives, including envoys linked to Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and announced a 5-day pause on striking Iranian energy infrastructure, while pressing for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump suggested regime change pressures are already yielding results and urged Iran to reach a deal to end the conflict. Iranian officials immediately rejected the assertions as fake news, with Tehran denying any negotiations are underway and vowing to respond forcefully if its vital interests are threatened. What do they think has been going on? Well, oil prices have swung dramatically, briefly climbing above $100 a barrel on fears of prolonged disruption, before easing on the latest claims. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that any potential U.S.-Iran deal must protect Israel's vital interests. Meanwhile, some voices in Western media, including at the Wall Street Journal, have called for ground troops to decisively weaken Iran's capabilities. The Pentagon reports that more than 9,000 targets inside Iran have been hit since the operation began. The conflict has triggered broader regional fallout. Iran-backed militias have launched attacks in Iraq and elsewhere, while the closure or threat to the Strait of Hormuz has raised global energy concerns. European leaders, including in the UK, are weighing the cost of living impacts, and markets have reacted with volatility. White House officials described diplomatic plans as remaining fluid, with Trump even referencing a visit to Graceland in the context of his negotiating style. Despite the talk of talks, U.S. and Israeli strikes have continued on non-energy targets, and Iran has fired missiles toward Israel, causing limited damage and injuries in the Tel Aviv area. Analysts warn that mixed messaging risks escalation, even as both sides appear to be probing for an off-ramp. The situation remains highly dynamic, with oil markets, global shipping, and allied cohesion all hanging in the balance as the world watches for the next development in this fast-moving crisis. Now we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline, Port Arthur, Texas. A massive explosion and fire rocked the Valero oil refinery in Port Arthur late yesterday, sending a huge plume of black smoke into the sky. The blast, believed to involve an industrial heater, prompted a shelter-in-place warning for nearby residents. No injuries were reported, and all personnel were accounted for. Investigators are examining the cause while the facility remains shut down. Dateline Washington, USA. The U.S. Senate has confirmed Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin as the new Secretary of Homeland Security. Mullin replaces Kristi Noem in the key Trump administration post amid ongoing debates over immigration enforcement and border security. The confirmation vote follows a procedural advance earlier this week. Dateline Copenhagen. Danish voters went to the polls in an early general election, overshadowed by tensions with the United States over President Trump's expressed interest in acquiring Greenland. The vote tests domestic politics and broader transatlantic relations at a time of global uncertainty. Dateline Colombia. At least 66 people were killed when a Colombian military plane crashed. Details on the cause of the major air disaster are still emerging as authorities work to identify victims and investigate the incident. Dateline Global. Leonid Radvinsky, the owner of the adult content platform OnlyFans, has died at the age of 43 following a battle with cancer. The news has prompted reactions across the digital economy and tech sectors. This observer cannot say, but cannot believe, that this man now rests in peace. Dateline Los Angeles. A jury has found Bill Cosby liable for sexually assaulting a woman in 1972 and awarded her more than $19 million in damages. The civil verdict comes decades after the initial allegations against the comedian. Dateline Brussels and Canberra. Australia and the European Union have signed a sweeping new trade deal aimed at strengthening economic ties and providing a buffer against current global trade tensions and uncertainty stemming from the Middle East conflict. Dateline various U.S. airports. ICE agents have been deployed to major U.S. airports as part of heightened immigration enforcement efforts under the Trump administration. The move comes amid longer security lines and travel disruption at several hubs because of congressional failure to pass funding. Dateline Washington, USA. The United States has banned new foreign-made consumer Internet routers, citing national security risks. The policy seeks to reduce potential vulnerabilities in everyday networking hardware. Dateline the Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, Florida. NASA's Artemis II moon rocket has rolled back to the launch pad in preparation for a possible crewed flight in early April. The mission would send astronauts farther from Earth than any previous human spaceflight. Dateline Beijing. China has scaled back planned fuel price increases in an effort to ease the burden on drivers amid ongoing global energy price shocks linked to the Iran conflict. Dateline New Delhi and London. British universities are increasingly looking to expand into the Indian market, though questions remain about whether these institutions will succeed in that highly competitive environment. Dateline Havana. Widespread power outages continue to plunge much of Cuba into darkness, severely affecting daily life and straining hospitals, including the maternity wards. Dateline Ljubljana, Slovenia. Am I pronouncing that right? Ljubljana. Slovenia has become the first European Union country to introduce fuel rationing as authorities respond to global supply strains. Dateline Nairobi. Kenya's former foreign minister has been arrested and accused of staging his own disappearance. The high-profile case has sparked political drama and fraud allegations. And Dateline Hollywood. Ryan Gosling's sci-fi film Project Hail Mary has achieved the biggest box office debut of 2026 so far, delivering a strong opening for Amazon MGM Studios for a film that has both received popular critical reviews and seems to be popular with the people, too. What a change. Well, I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again GROK the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.